A lot of people hate Wonder Woman 1984. I enjoyed the movie, but I also recognize that there are issues with it. But once I saw how many issues people had online, people that are just tearing this movie a new one, I decided to rewatch it and to jot down some of these issues, some of these complaints that I have seen online and discuss them to see whether or not people are exaggerating, if they're just being complete dicks. The plot. The monkey's paw wishing stone device that is found and it grants you a wish, and Maxwell Lord is using this to gain as much power as he can. I guess most people just think that this is a lazy, flimsy, thrown together type of plot that wasn't all that original, wasn't all that interesting. Either way, there are still many issues about this wishing stone and how exactly it works. Maybe I'll agree now that the biggest complaints about it is that it does need to be explained more as far as the rules for making a wish. They kind of contradict themselves when at one point you can only grant one wish to a person, but then later on, Kristen Wiig's character is able to get two wishes or multiple wishes, and so it gets confusing as far as that goes. Let's talk about Maxwell Lord, though. As much as Pedro Pascal was great in the movie, and I thought he was, you could argue that his character, his whole sole motivation on using this wishing stone because he wants to turn his career around, it comes across as selfish. And yes, it is. It's very selfish. Everything that he does in this movie, every decision that he makes in this movie is insanely selfish. But at the very, very end, you see that he's willing to give all of this power up, as incensed and as too deep as he was with this wishing stone. When he sees that his son is in danger, he gives up this power. And as good as a sentiment as that is, as much as the flashback scenes of him growing up with his father and being made fun of, and how he almost became ashamed of his own background, all of that made him a lot more interesting and a lot more layered. And so that's all good. But I'm not all that sure if I'm convinced that he cared that much about his son, or if we got enough evidence throughout the movie that he would care that much about his son. Lots of people are complaining about the Arabian characters being war criminals, even though it's set in 1984. And I know that that's probably the biggest argument as far as, well, they're portrayed this way because of when it takes place. I think people are just at the point where they're sick of seeing Arabians, or if they are of this heritage, they're sick of seeing themselves, people that look like themselves, portrayed in such criminal light. You almost never, hardly ever see a person of this same heritage not portrayed as a terrorist. Yes, I could understand the discontent. I can understand people being very upset. Steve Trevor taking over that poor man's body. There's so many issues with this. It bleeds into the idea that we don't know the rules for the wishing stone. Like, why is it able to manifest nuclear missiles out of thin air, but it can't reproduce or recreate Steve Trevor? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There's no real reason, or it's not explained for why they can't just have Steve Trevor show up the way that he can, as opposed to having to possess someone's body. If you think about it, if Diana's wish was to have Steve Trevor come back, having him possess a body of a man that's not Steve Trevor or doesn't look like Steve Trevor, then technically they didn't grant her wish. Or at least not in the way that she would have liked. She has sex with him, at least it seems that way. I don't know, it's just odd. It's an odd choice. You could argue that they did it just for the fact that Diana has to give this up later on because there's a lot of other people involved in it. Although you could just have the same moment where Steve says that this isn't right because it is taking away her powers. It doesn't have to be that he's possessing somebody. You almost feel bad for the guy himself as far as they're in his apartment for days. They're eating his Pop Tarts, which look, Diana, yes, is very attractive. Gal Gadot, there's not too many people that would turn down Gal Gadot in a night like that, but still, he's not aware of it. And you have to play it both sides. If this was a woman, if this was a female character who was put in the same situation, Twitter would erupt. Social media would tear this movie apart. It would crucify this movie. And if that's the case, if that's how those people would feel if it was a woman, then technically they probably should feel the same way if it was a guy. Personally, I'm not offended and I don't care all that much. I just still think it's weird. Barbara Minerva, Kristen Wiig, I don't like I love her performance. I think she's great in the movie acting wise, and her going from the weak minded character to becoming stronger and more confident and kind of evil. I enjoyed seeing that because she pulled it off so well, but the idea that Barbara Minerva at the very beginning is a dork or a loser because what? She dresses down, she wears glasses, she's timid and shy. Like, really? It does feel like, for some reason, these superhero movies, over decades now, has had the same trope of a villain where we meet them, whether it's from Batman Forever with Jim Carrey or Jamie Foxx in Amazing Spider-Man 2, or there's so many examples, countless. It just makes you think why. You would think Patty Jenkins, who co-wrote this movie, would want to have this character be a lot more interesting. The last thing I think that I've seen a lot of people complain about is Cheetah. When Barbara becomes Cheetah, the CGI with that is very iffy. It's very awkward, even if it's not about the design of Cheetah herself. Because Cheetah, I admit, is a hard character to pull off in live action and make look real and make look convincing. So it's not so much about that versus how just bad the CGI itself looked and how much it looked like a cartoon character. It was a very short moment, a very short fight scene. Cheetah's able to destroy Wonder Woman's golden armor that was built up and explained to us to be the most powerful armor ever, but yet it's destroyed in seconds. So, yeah, look, I admit this movie has issues, has its problems. I've addressed all of them. Some of them I agree with more than others. Other ones, even if they are there, they don't bother me nearly as much. I still enjoyed the film. I still have fun with the movie. I would admit if I hated this or if I thought this absolutely sucked. I'm not in that camp. But guys, let me know in the comments below. What do you think of Wonder Woman 1984? Do you agree that all of these reasons are valid and that this movie does indeed suck gigantic balls? Or are you with it? Are you for it? Do you have fun with the movie? Are you a defender of the film? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later!